15 years, blowing the doors up the competition. Podcasting to planet Earth. PNRNetworks.com.
Hey guys, welcome to the special edition of the Kirkham Report. I'm TC Kirkham. We don't do a lot of stuff on audio, but we will be in the future. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. This is my annual Eurovision wrap-up. It is May 17th, 2020, as I'm recording this, and the Eurovision Song Contest was scheduled to happen yesterday, May 16th, but as everybody knows, it did not. Eurovision was officially canceled due to the coronavirus COVID-19 outbreak back in March, and on March 18th, I was actually on vacation, my first week at home, and then I would go back to work the following week, and I haven't been back to the building since. I've been working from home since then. But it broke my heart. It was just a couple of days after my birthday, and I had all kinds of plans for this year's show. That having been said, there was a lot that they did that made up for it, and I'm just going to talk about it. It's an unusual situation. Eurovision started in 1956. They had never had to cancel a program before, so this was a first for them. It was not something that they were taking lightly. In fact, as the run-up to the actual contest began, several of the national finals were held without a live audience in an attempt to spare more coronavirus cases. But ultimately, they did end up pulling the plug overall. So 41 songs, most of which were more than competent, several of which were fantastic, and a few which were just terrible, are in limbo. There will never be a winner for the 2020 contest year. The songs, it was determined early on that the performers could come back depending on what their country said, and some of them have invited them back. But the songs cannot be reused for the 2021 contest. So there's 41 songs just sitting out there with no winner among them, at least officially. The unofficial winners we'll go into in just a few minutes. If you guys have been following along over the last 7 weeks, I ran up every single song at this year's for this year's contest on the Kirkham Report, as well as the Cinema One and our books and movies, our books and music store site, Planet Bibliomusica. So you probably, if you've been following along with those, and I hope you have, and if you have been, why haven't you commented? Be sure to write to me and tell me how this stuff is going at Subject Sentiment at PNRNetworks or TKR at PNRNetworks.com. I definitely want to hear from you. So I went over all of them myself, and there was some good stuff, there was some bad stuff. It's the usual Eurovision stuff. A couple of weeks into the cancellation, the Eurovision, the European Television Commission, Broadcast Commission, EBU, Broadcast Union, or European Broadcast Union, I'll get it right, decided that yes, they're going to do something. What they ended up doing was filling in the semifinals shows on Tuesday and Thursday with semifinal shows, but without live performances. They just showed the songs that would have been shown in that semifinal, plus 3 of the 6 Big Five members. That's the Big Five plus last year's winner at the end of each show. And then on Saturday, they did a great special called Europe Shine a Light, Eurovision Europe Shine a Light, which spotlighted all 41 songs as well as past winners, the history of the contest, and more. It was a great show. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. Let's go over the 41 songs that were a part of the Eurovision Song Contest that didn't happen, the show that wasn't. These 41 songs are in limbo forever. They will never be official winner. They actually declared there will never be an official winner on the Europe Shine a Light show yesterday. And that sucks for the people that did it. There were so many great participants, and I've become a huge fan of some of these new performers. And so let's go over them in the grouping that they would have been in the semifinals, and then the Big Five plus the Netherlands, which was last year's winner. Semifinal 1 was to have taken place on Tuesday and consisted of 17 artists who would have battled for 10 spots in the finals. Those acts were the Mamas with Move from Sweden, Val, the group, Davidna, sung in Belarus, from Belarus, Montaigne from Australia, Don't Break Me. And I explained this last year, I think, and I've explained it on the website. Australia is in Eurovision because they have always carried it and were invited to participate at the 60th anniversary in 2015. They did so well that they haven't went away and are continuing to compete and currently scheduled to compete through 2023. So, there you go there. Vasil, his song You, represented North Macedonia this year. Anna Solik represented Slovenia with Voda, sung in Slovene. The Roop, oh God, we'll talk more about this song later, represented Lithuania, the perennial losers, the only Baltic state that has not managed to win at least once, and as such they have a huge fan following, trying to push them into that winner's circle. The song was called On Fire, performed in English. Leslie Roy was there representing Ireland this year with The Story of My Life. Little Big, one of the cult hits, and you may have seen it, it's gone viral on the internet, with their hilarious song Uno from Russia, sung in English and Spanish. And for some reason, leaving out the number 3. Belgium is represented by Hooverphonic, the only act at this year's Eurovision to have American success. They've had some chart hits on the AAA scene. With Release Me, also performed in English. Malta was represented by former junior Eurovision winner Destiny, a song called All of My Love. Number 11 on that group of 17 was Croatia, represented by Damir Kedzo with, I'm going to have trouble with this, it's in Croatian, Devij Vitri, I believe it's pronounced, sung in Croatian. Azerbaijan, represented by Effendi, one of the fan favorites this year, Cleopatra, sung in English. Cyprus was represented by Sandro with his song Running. Norway by Ulrike, with her popular song Attention. Israel, represented by Eden Aline with Fakir Lebi, which is sung in English, Aramaic, the first song ever to performed in that language at Eurovision, Hebrew and Arabic. Roxanne represented Romania with Alcohol You, and the Ukraine was represented by Go A and Solove. This was the first semifinals, and I pretty much could probably tell you which 10 would get through. The second semifinals, another group of 18 countries, would have done the semifinals on the 14th of May, that's Thursday, but again, of course, they didn't actually get to compete, although they all got shown at the European Eurovision Song Celebration, they called it. What a cop-out, guys. The 18 songs that would have competed in the second semifinals were Greece, Stefania with Supergirl in English, Estonia, performed by Uku Saviste, who did What Love Is in English, Austria, represented by Vincent Bueno and his song Alive, Moldova was there with Natalia Gordinko and her song Prison in English. The tiny enclave of San Marino, represented this year by Senit, her hit Freaky in English. The Czech Republic, represented by Benny Cristo and Kimama in English. Serbia, represented by Hurricane, a girl group, doing Hasta La Vista. It says here at Wikipedia it was done in Serbian, but it wasn't. It was performed in English. In Poland's entry, Alicia, Alicja, she was the youngest competitor in this year's competition at 17. Two other 17-year-olds were slightly older, Stefania and Destiny. Her song was Empires in English. Iceland, represented by Daddy Freyr, actually Freyr, and his performance art band, Gagmanado. It's very hard to say. Daddy Gagmanadid. It's a mouthful. It means bite, B-I-T-E. With their song Think About Things, another one of the fan favorites this year. Switzerland, represented by John's Tears and Respond-moi in French. Denmark, represented by the duo Ben and Tan, and yes, performed in English. They're live. They were one of the few that had to do a no audience national final. It was kind of eerie seeing that at the end of the video they put out. Albania, represented by Arilena Ara, Fall from the Sky. Finland's entry, Axel, with Looking Back. Armenia, Athena Manukian, another fan favorite, Chains on You. Portugal, represented by Elisa and her Portuguese song, Medo de Sentir. Georgia, represented, I'll get that word right, represented by Torniki Kipiani and Take Me As I Am. First time I've heard Georgia perform in English. That was interesting. They usually perform in Georgian. One other band did in English, too. Bulgaria, represented by Victoria and Tears Getting Sober in English. Another fan favorite. And Latvia, Samantha Tina, on her 5th attempt to get in to represent her country in Eurovision, finally made it there and didn't get to compete, unfortunately. Was still breathing, also in English. Finals have 6 countries every year automatically qualified for the finals. They are the Big Five. These are the 5 that compete, that pay for most of Eurovision and the previous year's winner. Netherlands, which won the contest with Arcade by Duncan Lawrence in 2019, was represented by Jingao McCroy and his song Grow. And then the Big Five, France, represented by Tom Lieb with his song The Best in Me. Germany, represented by Ben Dolic and Violent Thing, another fan favorite. Italy, represented by Diodato and Five Rumor in Italian. Spain, represented by Blas Canto with his song Universo in Spanish. And the United Kingdom, represented by James Newman and his song My Last Breath, which is actually one of the best UK songs in a number of years. The UK was one of the big dominant forces in Eurovision, usually finishing in the top 5, until they dropped the language rule in 1998 or 99 because more countries were speaking English, so they dropped the bit about in their native tongue if English was a second language. So now almost everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody usually performs in English. So what would have happened this year? There were clear fan favorites across the board. As I said, Ben Dolic's Violent Thing from Germany was one of the big fan favorites. Iceland, Daddy Freyr and Think About Things. Switzerland, John's Tears and Respondez-moi. Bulgaria of Victoria, Tears Getting Sober. And Lithuania and Wrapup and On Fire were the 5 fan favorites, I think. Overall, 2 of those songs just sucked, in my opinion. The Wrapup, On Fire, and Tears Getting Sober by Victoria. Those 2 songs, my opinion only, I admit, I just don't like the Wrapup. That song grates on me, that routine. They do this funky little cutesy dance routine, although the one that Daddy Freyr and company do from Iceland is way better and funnier. It didn't work for me. And Tears Getting Sober, it just is too Billie Eilish for my taste. It's clearly inspired by Billie Eilish, as is Alcohol You, another outside favorite by Roxanne, which I just didn't think lyrically was a very good song. A lot of times people who, especially Americans, because Americans are not used to watching Eurovision, that's going to change in the next year or so. Eurovision was available here from 2016 to 2018 on Logo. Last year, the 2019 competition was not shown live, but all 3 parts of it, Logo only carried the finals, all 3 parts of it are available on Netflix. Netflix did a deal with them because they're actually producing an original comedy, quote-unquote, movie with Will Ferrell about Eurovision, which will be up later this year. God help us all. So there was no official outlet this year because it was canceled. The feed that they normally give to YouTube, which is open except for the shows, which are not available in the U.S. usually. This year there was no geo-blocking, and so you can watch the two tribute shows and the final program replacement on YouTube. And they were, as I said, the two semi-final type shows were kind of fun. They had fun little features in between. But they hit a home run with Eurovision Europe Shine a Light. I was really impressed with it, and impressed because of the situation. They made the best out of a terrible situation out there. And in the long run, they weren't even going to do that. It was the fans that forced them into doing something. And you got to love the Eurovision fans out there, especially the ones in Europe. They are thoroughly rabid about it. My own personal taste, you guys know, as I do my own countdown every year, and count up the songs. My top 10 this year, is that right? I'm looking at the one I had, and I'm like, heck, I don't remember having that high. My top 10 this year, and I varied so greatly from the ones on the continent. I'm just an American, after all. I know nothing about Eurovision. You should hear some of the European fans and the way they slam on American fans, which, that's just the way the fandom in Eurovision always is. You just take it with a grain of salt. My top 10 this year: number 10, Austria's entry, Alive by Vincent Bueno. Number 9, Germany's entry, Violent Thing by Ben Dolic. Number 8, Azerbaijan's Wonderful Cleopatra by Effendi. Number 7, nobody agrees with me on this anywhere outside of the U.S., You by Vasil from North Macedonia. Number 6, Story of My Life by Ireland's Leslie Roy. Nobody seemed to like that one as well either. Number 5, Supergirl by Stefania from Greece. The best song they've done ever as far as I'm concerned. Respondez-moi by John's Tears. Number 4 on my list from Switzerland. Destiny's Fantastic, All of My Love from Malta. I'm still pegging that to become a hit in the U.S. I'll be surprised if it doesn't. They're going to find a way to get that to the U.S. because it is just great. Number 2, Sweden and the Mamas with Move. And my number 1 pick this year, the hilarious, wonderfully deadpan, truly awesome Icelandic entry, Think About Things, from Daddy and Gagmanadid. They were just awesome. Daddy Fryer, in fact, did a live concert on Friday afternoon, actually, from his home in Germany. He's living in Berlin right now, and it was a scream. He and his wife Arnie, who is also in the band, were there and doing. I mean, he's an amazing keyboard wizard. You just have to see him. I have a feeling the world's going to be contending with Daddy Fryer in the near future. He's just really something. There was a great special that was aired yesterday in place of the finals, called Eurovision Europe Shine the Light, and they focused it on the fact that nobody could get together for this. They did it live. Unfortunately, it was not done from Rotterdam. The original host of this year's, after winning last year's contest, Rotterdam, the venue that was to be used for Eurovision, is now a makeshift hospital for COVID patients. So it was moved to Hilversum and hosted by Chantal Jansen, Edcilia Rombley, and Jan Smit, who had also been appointed to host the regular Eurovision contest shows. It was a phenomenal program. They went over and highlighted a lot of great songs. They highlighted each of the performances and a little bit of a message from each performer. Daddy's, of course, was just insane. There were some great live performances with Mr. Eurovision, Johnny Logan, the only man who has won it 3 years, twice as a singer in 1980 and 1987, I believe, and as a songwriter in 1993. With singing his classic What's Another Year, helped along by hundreds of fans from Eurovision and the 3 hosts. Mans Summerlow performed live from London his 2015 winner, Heroes, as a tribute to the hard workers that are in the front lines of the COVID crisis. Gail Attari, the lead singer of Milk and Honey, winner in 1979, I believe, for Israel, teamed up with the winners and finalists of the Junior Eurovision contest in the last couple of years to perform Milk and Honey's winning song Hallelujah in the streets of, she was in the streets of Jerusalem, and the kids were in little boxes beside of her. Antonio Diodato, this year's representative from Italy, sang a beautiful guitar version of Eurovision's biggest selling hit ever, the 1958 song Nel Blu de Pinto de Blu, best known as Volare. Wonderful version. Marja Serovic took stage on the streets of Serbia to perform her winning hit Molitva. I can't say that. It was before I was watching, I'm sorry. The Katrina and the Waves song, Love Shine a Light, was performed twice. First by the Rotterdam Philharmonic in seclusion, in individual little shots, doing their instruments. And then later in the show, the entire, all the artists of Eurovision except Hooverphonic, who could not work it into their schedule, appeared performing, the song as well. Michael Schulte, who became a big star in Europe thanks to his 2018 entry, You Made Me Walk Alone, teamed up with Ilse de Lange of the Common Linnets, who came in second in, I believe it was to Conchata Wurst's Rise Like a Phoenix of 2014, teamed up for a classic German song In Bischeln Frieden, which was also a previous winner. Netta, the winner of the 2018 contest from Israel, her song Toy became a massive hit worldwide, including on the U.S. dance chart, where it spent several weeks at number one. Netta premiered her brand new single Cuckoo, and she's just an amazing artist, and if you haven't seen her, you need to find out what Netta is all about. She's fantastic. Duncan Laurence, the winner of last year's contest with his pedestrian song Arcade. I'm sorry, that song should not have won Eurovision last year. I just didn't like it. Was back with another sound that sounded just like Arcade matched with Mostande Moi. Something called Something Else. Someone Else. I don't know what it is about Duncan Laurence, but the man just annoys me. I'm sorry, Duncan. Your song is good, but it wasn't, I mean, it was like 14 on my list last year. I just didn't think it deserved number one, but that's me. And as I said, the artists from the entire contest this year, except Hooverphonic, who couldn't work it in, along with Katrina I can't say her name, Leskinich of Katrina and the Waves, teamed up with together, Katrina appearing at the very end, to do Love Shine a Light, which was her her winning song from 1997, the last time the UK had a winner. It was a fantastic show. It made me realize, and the thing that really got to me was the number of messages from the different stars who appeared in guest shots, not just people like Johnny Logan, but also Bjorn Ulvaeus of ABBA. Of course, ABBA launched their career in 1974 at Eurovision with Waterloo, which won that year. My wife and I were talking about it. Kim and I were talking about it. Everybody in Europe is all about sticking together and making this work, and we can get through this. And everybody in the United States are, let me out, I can't stand this anymore, we can't do this, let us out. It's just getting to the point where it's ridiculous. We have to stay safe, have to stay masked up, social distanced. It will pass, but we have to give it time. And a lot of places, I think, in my opinion, are reopening too soon. But that's just my own opinion. What did you like this year if you're a fan? If you're not a fan, you can go over to the TKR's website and click on Eurovisionaries. It's a channel devoted to Eurovision over the years, not just the current stuff, but stuff going back all the way right now to 2001, plus the Junior Eurovision singers from the last couple of years, and selected classics throughout the years, and you can immerse yourself. Eurovision has not had a big influence on the U.S. charts since the mid-'70s. There was quite a few songs that charted at one time or another in the 60s. Love is Blue by Paul Mauriat was a cover of a song L'amour est bleu, which was Luxembourg's entry that year in 1967, and of course his version is an instrumental, but it spent 5 weeks at number 1. And Volare was a huge hit here. The last big hit to come from Eurovision, honest to goodness, big hit was Waterloo by ABBA and Save All Your Kisses for Me by Brotherhood of Men, both in the mid-70s. And the very last song to chart on the Hot 100 was Gina G's Ooh Ah Just a Little Bit, which peaked at number 13, I think, in America. It was the UK's entry that year and finished 8th at Eurovision. Since then, despite the fact that we deserve them because, they're a bit Netta's Toy should have crossed over. I don't know why radio didn't jump all over that. And it did hit number 1 on the dance chart here in America, but it did not go anywhere. And last year, wonderful Say Na 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 by Serhat from San Marino was just mind-blowingly fun and should have been a hit, but we won't go into that. Other people appearing throughout the special yesterday were Vicky Gabor, the winner of the 2019 Junior Eurovision Song Contest, and the Junior Eurovision Song Contest will go forward, as we are told right now, and will be gearing up for action in November. Alexander Rybak, who is winner for 2009 Fairy Tale, the second biggest song of all time and the biggest selling song or the biggest points song of all time under the original scoring system in 2009. He also represented them in 2018. Had a message. Lenny Koo, who won for the Netherlands in 1969. Sandra Kim from Belgium appeared. Anna-Marie David from Luxembourg. Naim Kavanagh from Ireland. Getty Kaspars from the lead singer of Teachin, who won in 1975 with Ding a Dong from the Netherlands. Eli and Nikki, the winners of the 2011 contest from Azerbaijan. Sergei Lazarev, who represented Russia twice in 16 and 19 with some fantastic music. Dana from 1970 from Ireland. Elena Paparizou from Greece, who won in 2005. Carola, who represented in Sweden twice in 83 and 06 before finally winning in between those two in 1991. Conchita Wurst, the winner of 2014 Rise Like a Phoenix. Bjorn Ulvaeus, as I said, and Graham Norton, who was the British commentator, all appeared in either a guest shot or just a clip, encouraging people to hang on and go. One of the most beautiful things they did on the special was highlighting one of the major landmarks in every one of the 41 countries that were represented at Eurovision this year. Some of them, if you're not into the countries, you're not going to recognize stuff like the Bridge of Peace from Tbilisi, Georgia, or the Croatian National Theater in Zagreb, Croatia. But there were a lot of familiar sights in this group, including the magnificent Eurovarian television tower, which is, if you're an archaeology person, you know that. It's in Yerevan, Armenia. The Sydney Opera House from Sydney, Australia. The Presidential Palace in Nicosia, Cyprus. The Acropolis from Greece, not really a big surprise. The Old City of Jerusalem in Israel. The Oslo Opera House in Norway. If you've seen The Quake last year, you've seen that. A lot of familiar stuff, and probably the most familiar, the London Eye, the incredible giant Ferris wheel they have, representing the United Kingdom. Czech Republic, Finland, and Moldova were not represented in that. I guess they couldn't get footage in time or something, but it was a beautiful tribute to all the countries, and really deserved more than they got. Let's go around. In place of Eurovision, a number of countries have had their own contests. Some of them directly related to Eurovision songs, others not. Das Deutsche Finale from Germany has not yet posted their winners, which was supposed to happen yesterday. But the 10 songs that made it through their semifinals to get into the final were Effendi's Cleopatra, Victoria Tears Getting Sober, Ben and Tan, Yes, Daddy and Go Magneted, Think About Things, Diodato and Fair Rumor, The Roop on Fire, Destiny, All My Love, Little Big Uno, The Mama's Move, and John's Tears, Resaba Moi. We'll have the official winners of that at some point on one of the shows. The Grand Prix how did we put this? Let's see. The Grand Prix hit list. I did the best I could with that. Coming from Germany, also, one of the other German broadcasters decided to have a poll that would determine the favorite online poll, would determine the favorite songs of all time from Eurovision. The winner of that was the Ukraine's 2004 winner, Rusiana's Wild Dances. It got 71,209 votes. It was followed by Turkey's 2003 winner, Sertab Erener's Every Way That I Can, with 63,958 points. And at number 3, Luxembourg's 1972 classic Après Toi, 57,514. Waterloo, the biggest, best known and biggest worldwide hit. It was a hit in more countries than the other song, which was voted the number one song of all time at the Eurovision's 60th anniversary special, came in 6th with 21,659 votes. It was an interesting little thing. And Sveriges 12A from Sweden had a one-off music competition that was determined what would be there, and what they would do is take all the songs from this year, have their own semifinals, and featured their finals based on this year's songs. The 5 winners of this, the 5 that placed in 4th up, because there was a tie for 4th place, tying for 4th, the Wrapup and On Fire from Lithuania, and Uno from Little Big, Russia. In 3rd place, Jean's Tears with Responsez-moi from Switzerland. Number 2, Yay, All of My Love from Destiny from Malta, finished with a 20-point total. And 2nd place, and finishing on top, Iceland, Diane Gagamanadi with Think About Things. I'm very happy to see that at the top. I just love that song. Now, this is not going to change anything for how things go. Eurovision announced yesterday at the end of the show they will go on next year. They made it clear in the video. They didn't actually say, we're sorry we canceled it, but they said it will go on, and and no matter what was how they put it. So that better mean that even if they don't get to have the live show again, that we'll still get the contest and not just a celebration. It will happen, again, officially announced as Rotterdam, the location which they've been negotiating for several weeks, and it will take place next May. Hopefully we'll get there without any problems from COVID and be able to go back to the weird and wonderful spectacular that Eurovision usually is. Couple of things I'm going to tell you now here, and this is just on here. I'm not going to mention it on the actual website where you can find this. I have really come. I mean, I've been aware of Eurovision since I was a kid. I first heard it mentioned, I think, when Eras 2 by Mosadatis, which was the runner-up in 1973, hit the American chart in a big way in 1974. Got up to number 9 on the Billboard chart, and I loved that song from day one. But I first remember hearing about that Casey Kasem talking about the Eurovision contest, and it had been on there. American Top 40 back when I was a wee tot, I think I was maybe 10. So I've been aware of it, and I was aware of it over the years, but I didn't know Volare was a song from the Eurovision contest until just a couple of years ago. I didn't even know it had competed there. But I knew about Love is Blue too later on, and I love the spectacle that is Eurovision. And I've been covering it since we first got it in 2016. Covering it in a huge way since the following year, 2017. So, with the debut in 2021 of the American Song Contest looming soon, preparations and preliminary stuff should begin in the fall or early winter of this year. And it is a independent production licensed from Eurovision, so this is probably actually going to happen. I can't wait to do more with it. So, sometime this summer, we're going to launch a sub-site of TKR devoted to Eurovision and the American Song Contest. I still think I'll explain that in a minute. Anyway, we're going to launch a site devoted to this, where there will be Eurovision coverage and American Song coverage 24/7, 365. It will include our first, or my, I don't keep saying our, but Kim doesn't do any of this stuff. I'm thoroughly the one in charge of this. I will be covering for the first time the Eurovision Junior Song Contest this year, Junior Eurovision, which I was watching some of the stuff from the last year's yesterday, and I'm like, I have to start covering this. We'll also start giving you info, at least not full coverage, of the other contests that Eurovision does. They have a dancing one, they have a choir one, they do a number of other things. And we will cover the American Song Contest. Now, the American Song Contest was introduced and announced at Eurovision, or slightly after Eurovision, in 2019. It is the same basic principle, only it will apply to the 50 states of America. Now, to me, the American Song Contest sounds like it should be a national final. Why not go full tilt to the producers of the American Song Contest? Why not go full tilt and launch an Amerivision Song Contest where the countries of North, Central, and South America can compete against each other? I talked a little bit about this last year, I think. The idea of the United States competing with Colombia, Bolivia, Canada, the island countries like the U.S. Virgin Islands, or one of those, Puerto Rico, everybody could have their own entries instead of having the 50 states compete against each other. That's fine, but that would be a great national final, but not an overall Eurovision type show. It'll be interesting to see how that implements. They haven't really outlined much of anything other than it's going to happen, so I'll bring you more about that when we get it, and I have had some on it before. So we will be launching this site, and as I said, this is going to be the first year I will be giving full coverage to the Junior Eurovision Song Contest, starting probably around September 1st is when the songs start coming out. This full site coverage will also include coverage of all of the national finals on every level, and at some point I'm going to be wanting to put together a team in a similar way to some of the other YouTube sites, because this is going to be a fully YouTube active channel, as well as a blog. I have some great stuff in mind, and you'll be able to see it once we get the site up and running, and I'm aiming for August 1st of getting it logged. I don't know what the name of it's going to be yet. I don't know what it is, but the subtitle will be TKR, the Kirkham Report Presents, whatever it turns out to be. So it'll be there, and you'll have information on it in the near future, probably on Subject Cinema and our other shows and our other websites. We hope you'll check out our other shows. We hope you'll check out, Subject Cinema, our current series, Captive Audience Cinema, or Captive Audience Theater, is looking at bad movies. And giving you something to laugh about during this COVID crisis. Kim also has Platinum Rose's Garden, which is currently on hiatus due to the COVID because of the Supernatural final. Is not done yet and won't be a telecast, we now know, until October. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. And she also hosts a great funny wrestling show called Ring Around the Rosie, and a great ASMR / roleplay channel called Platinum Rose Roleplay on YouTube. Check those out. My disaster movie series, Catastrophe Vortex, comes back tomorrow with a first-person account of my experiences living in Washington State the day Mount St. Helens blew up. We'll talk about that and more. Of course, we've always got new stuff going on all of our websites. You can get to all of them by going to PNRNetworks.com, or check out the links at the bottom of almost every page and on the sidebar to all of the PNR Networks family. And we hope that you'll support us by joining our patron circle. $5 a month helps us out with all of our expenses. We could really use it right now. We know times are bad and people are out of work and unemployment is high, but we're hoping you'll skip a latte and send us that $5 because we could really use it. And you can do that by going to patreon.com/PNR Networks. Until next year, or whenever we get the new full YouTube channel off the ground, and until I see you again on any of our other shows, thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed my coverage of Eurovision this year, and I hope you'll join me again. And it all starts again with the Junior Eurovision contest in the fall. For the Kirkham Report, I'm T.C. Kirkham. See you later.
15 years, blowing the doors up the competition, podcasting to planet Earth.
PNRNetworks.com.